Shane Van Gisbergen needed to make up 29 seconds in the final laps at Watkins Glen just to have a chance, not to win, just to have a chance. Most drivers cannot close that gap in 10 laps on a road course. He closed it, then passed the leader, then pulled away and won by 7 seconds. Here is exactly what happened. Let's set the scene at Watkins Glen International. May 10th, 2026. The Go Bowling at the Glen. This is not just any road course. Watkins Glen has been running races since 1948. The track bites drivers who make mistakes. The bus stop chicane punishes the impatient. The S's reward the brave. This is a track that separates road course specialists from everyone else. And on this day, one man proved he is not just a specialist, he is in a completely different category. Here is what you need to understand before we get into the comeback. Shane Van Gisbergen is from New Zealand. He spent years becoming one of the best road racers on the planet before he ever touched a NASCAR Cup Series car. He won the Australian Supercars Championship 3 times, 2016, 2021, 2022, back-to-back-to-back in his final 2 seasons. That is not luck. That is a driver who knows exactly what he is doing with a race car on any surface, any track, any condition. But here is the thing about NASCAR. When he showed up as a wildcard entry for the 2023 Chicago street race, the very first Cup race ever held on a street circuit, people were curious. Then he went out and won. On his Cup Series debut, first race, first win. Just like that, that should have told everyone everything. But somehow, people kept acting surprised every single time he did it again, and again, and again. So back to that 29-second gap we talked about at the start. How does that even happen? SVG was not having a clean race. There were strategy calls, traffic problems, and the kind of mid-race chaos that happens at road courses when timing becomes everything. Ty Gibbs, driving for Joe Gibbs Racing, one of the most powerful teams in NASCAR, had built a massive lead. 29 seconds is not a small gap on a road course. That is an eternity. That is almost half a lap in some cases. Gibbs was cruising. His team was in control. The win looked locked up. And then the race changed. Tire wear at Watkins Glen is brutal in the final stage. The track is hard on the right front. It is hard on the left rear. Drivers who push too hard too early pay for it in the closing laps. What the broadcast cameras started showing was Ty Gibbs struggling. The car was not responding the same way. The lap time started slipping. Not by a little, by enough to matter. Meanwhile, SVG was managing his tires like a surgeon. He was not throwing the car into corners. He was placing it, precise, patient, building speed lap by lap. The gap that looked like a closed door was actually a slowly opening window. Here is the thing nobody talks about enough. At the point SVG started closing the gap, the math still did not make sense. Even with Gibbs slowing down, the deficit was too large for a normal recovery. This was not going to be a close finish. This was not going to be a photo finish at the line. For SVG to win this race, something almost impossible had to happen. And it did. The final laps at Watkins Glen turned into a clinic. SVG was not just faster, he was in a completely different zip code. Lap after lap, the gap shrank. 5 seconds gone, then 10, then 15. Gibbs had no answer. His tires were finished. His pace was gone. SVG was hunting him down with the kind of momentum that makes your stomach drop when you are the one being caught. When SVG finally got to Gibbs, there was no fight for position. There was no side-by-side battle for 3 corners. The pass was clean, fast, and decisive. And then SVG was gone. He did not just win the race. He won it by 7.288 seconds over Michael McDowell in second place. Let that land for a second. He came from 29 seconds behind. He caught the leader. He passed the leader. And then he pulled away and won by 7 seconds. That is a 36-second swing in the final laps of a Cup race. Except it did. We said Shane Van Gisbergen broke NASCAR again. Not for the first time. Because this is now a pattern, not a one-time thing. This was his 7th Cup Series win. All 7 on road courses. Every single one. No oval wins. No superspeedway wins. Just road courses. And he is turning them into a personal collection. Think about what that means for the other 35 drivers in the field. Every time NASCAR rolls out to a road course, the entire Cup Series has to deal with a driver who treats these tracks like a home game. While they are fighting for position and surviving, SVG is actually racing. There is a difference between surviving a road course and hunting on one. Most NASCAR drivers survive. SVG hunts. Here is why SVG is so different, and why it matters to understand this if you want to follow NASCAR. Most Cup drivers grow up on ovals, dirt tracks in the Midwest, short tracks in the South. They learn to go fast by turning left, always left. Road courses require a completely different skill set. You brake later into right-hand corners. You manage weight transfer through complex sequences. You think 5 corners ahead, not 1. It is a different language. SVG grew up speaking that language. In Supercars, every race weekend at a street circuit or road course was a language lesson he had already passed. He did not need to learn how to drive Watkins Glen, he just needed to learn the specific bumps and curbing. The fundamentals were already locked in. His tire management also comes from endurance racing experience. In long-distance races, you do not have the option of destroying your tires. You have to make them last. That discipline, built over years of endurance events, is exactly what he used in those final laps at Watkins Glen when Gibbs was falling apart. But here is the question that nobody has actually answered yet. And it is the most important question in NASCAR right now. What happens when SVG figures out ovals? He is not a finished product. He came into Cup racing without oval experience. He is still learning those tracks. His results on ovals are not embarrassing, but they are not at his road course level either. Now think about this. A driver who can come from 29 seconds back on a road course, a driver with 3 Supercars championships, a driver who won his Cup debut. That driver is still improving on ovals. When those two things meet, when the oval learning curve finally catches up with the road course dominance, what does Shane Van Gisbergen look like as a complete NASCAR driver? We are watching that answer get written in real time. At the start of this, we said a driver fell 29 seconds back and everyone counted him out. That is exactly what NASCAR keeps doing with SVG. Every time a race looks out of reach, every time the gap looks too big, every time the analytics say it is over, he finds a way. 7 wins. All road courses. A 36-second swing in the final laps at Watkins Glen. A 7.288-second margin of victory over second place. A comeback that had no business working but worked anyway. NASCAR did not break Shane Van Gisbergen today. He broke NASCAR again. The title of this video said Shane Van Gisbergen broke NASCAR again. And I want you to think about that word, again, because the first time he did it was Chicago 2023. A Cup debut win that should have been impossible. The second time, the third time, now the 7th time. This is not a surprise anymore. This is a habit. And here is what makes that habit dangerous for everyone else in the field. SVG is not coasting to these wins. He is not starting from pole and checking out. He is doing it the hard way, from the back, from deficits that would end most drivers mentally before the car even gets a chance to close the gap.